Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bachem's webinar on corporate social responsibility. My name is Simon Fürstmeier, and I'm a senior equity analyst at Vontobel in Zurich. This is Bachem's second webinar on corporate social responsibility this year. If you would like to watch the previous webinar, please visit Bachem's website. Corporate social responsibility, or ESG, is an important topic for at least three reasons. Number one, it's a topic in society, in the media, for governments, for supranational institutions like the United Nations. Number two, from an investor's perspective, we see a high level of interest and very significant inflows into products that are labeled sustainable. And number three, regulation is increasing. So this webinar is very well timed. Now, before we start the presentation, we have one housekeeping item. At the end of the presentation, we will have some time for Q&A. During the presentation, you can write your questions into the chat box at the bottom of your screen. With that, it is my pleasure to hand over to our speaker today. Dr. Franz Saladin is the Corporate Social Responsibility Compliance Manager at Bachem, and he will guide us through the presentation. Franz, please go ahead.
Thank you again very much, Simon, for your kind introduction. And welcome from my side also to everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are sitting, or good evening on the world. Happy to welcome you to the second, as Simon said already, to the second webinar on corporate social responsibility at Bachem. Before we start, maybe a few words just about Bachem. I think most of you know Bachem. Bachem is specialized in the manufacturing of peptides and oligonucleotides for research, clinical development, and commercial applications to pharmaceutical and biotech companies listed on the Swiss Stock Exchange. Actually, Bachem turned 50 this year, and we can say that Bachem is the undisputed market leader when it comes to the production of peptides. We are located all over the world. We have two sites in California, United States. We have three sites in Europe with the headquarters here in Switzerland. And in 2018, we established a sales office in Tokyo, Japan. So with no further delay, to the main topic of today's webinar, Bachem Group CSR Strategy 2022 to 2026. Just as an intro, why does Bachem actually invest into sustainability? First of all, it's for me important to stress that it's not to forget that the primary and foremost contribution to sustainability by a company like Bachem is our ability to help ensure healthy lives. So that's actually the main contribution we make to sustainability. But it is also clear to us that if we neglect our responsibility towards people and the environment, long-term success will not be possible. That's why we're committed in taking responsibility towards employees, towards the environment, towards society, and to customers likewise. This is our triple bottom line. And of course, we are aware that also that stakeholders also want us to care for matters beyond our business of developing and manufacturing first-class pharmaceuticals. It is important to them too. It is a society. They judge us by our social responsibility performance. It's actually customers. They set themselves very ambitious goals, how they want to deal with environment, how they want to deal with society, and they expect from us as a provider, as a supplier, to help them achieve these ambitious goals, and that's what we do. Employees actually more and more they want to have some purpose, some spirit into what they're doing. They don't just want anymore a job. They want to have some purpose in what they do. That's why they increasingly expect value-oriented corporate management from us as their employer. Legislation is growing also here in Switzerland. More and more we have to not only report on our financial figures, on our business, but also on what we do with society, how we deal with the environment. And last but not least, it's investors that have realized in the past years, past decades, I must say, that only responsible companies can really achieve good long-term profits. It's not surprising, therefore, that sustainability is one of Bachem's 5 strategic focus areas. It's not important to say, it's not that sustainability is absolutely new to Bachem. We have, excuse me, upheld our commitment to the responsible care program for over 2 decades now as Bachem. But it was in 2019 where, as a fast growing as Bachem is, we started to deal more systematically with our corporate social responsibility and then implemented a CSR management system. It was based on an in-depth materiality analysis, is aligned with the United Nations sustainability goals, and is of course underlined with the already strong sustainability performance of Bachem. And therefore, our group-wide CSR management system achieved a silver medal in EcoVadis rating at its first go in 2020, something I think we can be really proud of. This picture shows briefly how our group CSR strategy is organized. Based on our CSR code of conduct, we defined our CSR mission. Our mission to continuously improve our performance as an attractive employer, in safeguarding the environment, in acting ethically, and in guaranteeing the highest quality of products and services. And to make sure that we fulfill this mission with a strategy, we have a strategy written down in the corporate directive, we have goals and we have measures that are annually updated and written down in a CSR improvement plan. This is an important document, this CSR improvement plan. How do we get to this improvement plan? Based on our material topics that show 20 topics where we and our stakeholders think we have, as a company, a large impact. It's based on this material analysis. Of course, we set, in this improvement plan, we set targets for all material topics on an annual basis, and we write those down, as I said, in this improvement plan. But today our focus will be on the long-term goals in 3 of those 20 material topics. And I'll tell you why we will be focusing on this long-term core strategic targets in corporate social responsibility. This is the focus of today's webinar. And again, we have goals, we have targets for all these topics, but we will focus on those 3 in today's webinar. Once again, our material topics, the list of 20, grouped into 4 pillars according to our CSR missions. I repeat, being an attractive employer, safeguarding the environment, acting ethically, and guaranteeing the highest quality in products and services. And today's focus is on these 3 topics: on occupational health and safety, on diversity and equal opportunity, and in energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. And breaking it down, so it's 3 topics and 4 targets: energy consumption, greenhouse gas emissions, occupational health and safety, diversity, and equal opportunity. In the coming minutes, I will lead you through these 4 targets. Speaking about reducing our energy consumption to begin with, for a producing company like Bachem, of course, energy is a very important resource. Nevertheless, we want to contribute as a company to decoupling economic growth from energy consumption. Meaning, on the one hand, we want to, of course, continue increasing our contribution to good health. We want to continue our business. On the other hand, taking into account that the resources we use, these are not endless, and we want to help saving them. So decoupling our growth, decoupling economic growth from resource consumption, that's our goal. And on this graph, you can see our reduction path when it comes to energy consumption. BGR actually standing for Bachem Group, that is the whole of Bachem. And you can see a light bump in 2024, where a new production facility will take up operation in Switzerland. So this is our path, reducing energy consumption per FTE down 20% within the next years. The second target is reducing greenhouse gas emissions actually down to climate neutrality as a company. As Bachem, we stand behind the Paris Agreement on climate change, and we support all efforts to fight global warming. Together, or along with our energy consumption reduction strategy, but with additional measures, we will halve our relative Scope 1 and Scope 2 greenhouse gas emissions within the next 5 years. See the slope down 50% within the next 5 years. But for this very vital topic to us and to the world, for this vital topic, we even set a 10-year goal, and we'll target as a company again climate neutrality by 2030. So down to more or less zero within the 5 years after this period. Concerning the third target, occupational safety and health, Bachem shows an already high standard, I can say. Nevertheless, as Bachem as market leader needs the best employees, able and willing to innovate and meet the future needs of customers, we keep our focus on their well-being, on the well-being of our employees. Our vision actually is, amongst other contributions to an attractive working environment, our vision would be zero accidents, and our LTIR target shows our progress on this route. So we want to reduce the LTIR, you might be aware of that, lost time incident rate. We want to reduce it to equal or below 1.0 within the next 5 years, and the baseline 2020 LTIR is actually 1.2. Coming to the last target already, last but not least, I must say, we want to foster diversity and equal opportunity. Bachem adheres to the principle of fairness and honesty, providing equal terms of employment to all employees. And this commitment to equality is evidenced by our approach to diversity too. We recognize that the value of every employee's contribution to our success, and believe that an environment of inclusion fosters innovation. And innovation is core for our business. Now, on a global level, as Bachem is committed to gender equality. Wage gap analyses are routinely carried out, and appropriate consequences will be drawn in the event of irregularities. And in addition to that, measures are being taken to increase the share of women in our workforce as a total, as well as in upper management and in the regional executive committees. The aim is to show as a company a 10% increase of women in such positions by 2026. This was the global level. At the local level, the fundamental intent is for Bachem to reflect the communities of which we are part of. Site management now will have to define demographic characteristics such as race, skin color, ethnicity, sexuality, age, educational background, you name it. Characteristics that they think should be appropriately represented at their site. Monitoring the distribution of these characteristics forms the basis for setting goals, for setting improvement plans, for taking up initiatives to address this goal. So this is actually something on the local level. We don't want to represent the world in all our sites. Global goal is gender equality, and on the local side, we want to represent the local communities in Bachem's workforce. So this is already the fourth target: diversity, equal opportunity, inclusion. I already come to my last slide, the next steps. I'm personally very happy, and to be honest, I'm a little bit proud too, that our board of directors approved the goals I just presented to you only last week. Next steps now, of course, will be, after talking the talk, is walking the walk and put Bachem's commitment to sustainability into life. Looking forward very much from my side to this process, and I'm really sure that Bachem will not only deliver on the side of its products, its peptides and oligonucleotides, it will also deliver in sustainability, and really happy and proud that I can be part of that process. So much for my presentation, and I will be happy to take your questions. Thank you. I'll give back to Simon.
Thank you very much, Franz. This has been a very interesting presentation. There are a couple of questions in the chat, but maybe I'll kick off by asking you, how do you make sure that these targets are well understood by management and by employees? Do you have training sessions? Do you have link to payments and or bonuses? So how do you communicate this within Bachem?
Okay, thank you for this very interesting question, Simon. Actually, we were talking, as I said today, the focus is on these global goals. So these are top-down goals from the board of directors going into the organization. There, the site management now, it's the site management's duty within the next years to percolate this down into their workforce on the local level. At the same time, something I didn't show today, we have many initiatives, bottom up, coming from the sites, coming from the employees all over the world, and all that goes into this annual improvement plan. So the top down is the management's responsibility now to give these goals, to give these targets to the site level. It's their responsibility to bring it to the ground, and the other initiatives will go along with that. And one important point you mentioned already, yes, it will be going into annual goals of the management. So there will also be checks and balances. There will also be measurements if these goals, if the sustainability goals are achieved on site level. So that's actually guaranteed. It's not only a written paper somewhere in a drawer. It's actually in the targets, in the goals of the employees worldwide.
Right. There are a number of questions on target 1 and target 2, and they are similar. So I summarized them in my words. Apologies if I don't read similar questions line by line. If we maybe start with the energy consumptions, energy consumption, what are the key measures that you're taking there to reduce energy consumption?
It's actually not one key measure. I can start off with Switzerland. We had large analysis going on for the last years. Actually, we have 50 plus measures identified for our sites in Switzerland. Going from heat recovery to insulation to lowering pressures or temperatures in processes. So it's really a large work of analysis has been done to identify, as I said, 50 plus measures that we can take now one by one and guaranteeing to be on this reduction path I just showed before. So it's not just one measure, you have to look at all the processes within your company to achieve goals like this. So it's not one shot, it's many shots.
Right. And a question from the chat is, you're still a manufacturing company.
Yep.
So how can you manage to become climate neutral? Is this because you're really reducing emissions? Are you compensating by purchasing certificates? It's just people are wondering how this works on principle, since, as I said, you're still going to be a manufacturing company.
Yes, again, a very good question. Actually, it's a threefold answer. First of all, we have the measures I was talking about already. If you reduce energy consumption, usually you reduce greenhouse gas emissions as well, because many times you burn fossil fuels, and you emit carbon dioxide. So by reducing energy consumption, you reduce greenhouse gas emissions. You can replace your fuels. That's something we are doing right now here in Switzerland, in Bubendorf, replacing fossil fuels by wood chips. So you reduce greenhouse gas emissions there. Talking about scope 2 CO2, scope 2 greenhouse gas emissions, that's the energy we buy. So mainly electricity, maybe at some sites also heat that we buy. We can see, how is this electricity produced? Is it produced by coal firing, or is it produced renewably? So if you change from buying, say, electricity made through the burning of coal, replace it by electricity from renewable sources like photovoltaics, you have less greenhouse gas emissions. Many, many measures, and we want to go as far as we can with these measures, reducing, so to say, our greenhouse gas emissions in-house and from the purchase of energy we have. But we won't get to zero by that. So whoever asked that question, yes, we are still a producing company. We will still be using energy, and the fossil fuels, or all the energy we use, all the resources we use, also refrigerants, by the way, that we cannot reduce by technical means, we have to buy certificates on the market. That's true. But as we do not know what the prices will be in the coming years, it's very much in our own interest that we reduce our greenhouse gas emissions in-house as far as we can.
Right. Question from the chat is regarding your vendors, your suppliers, so the whole supply chain that you have. How can you convince them to kind of sign on to your goals and actually to participate in things like waste reduction? What's the motivation for them?
Well, one motivation is looking at the world and having the same goals, talking about climate change, talking about reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I hope that our suppliers have the same belief as we do, that we have to do something to reduce that. On the other hand, we want to put a focus on this too. That's work actually that just started now. We also will have a look at our suppliers. How much greenhouse gas emissions do we have in our supply chain by the suppliers? So we will have a focus on them too, trying for all our supply chain to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Not only upstream, also downstream. You might be aware of that our production of peptides is very solvent intensive. So what do we do with our solvents? It's something we can have a look. We're going to look at and now in the future. If you burn them, you have greenhouse gas emissions. If you can recycle them, you don't. So that's something we have to look at too. That's for people that are a bit familiar with a greenhouse gas emissions accounting. Scope 3 is actually the next focus we will be looking at in the coming months and years.
All right. The next question from a friendly colleague in Geneva. What's your room to maneuver in the production process, since you have to be FDA certified?
I would say, but I'm stepping on thin ice here, maybe because I'm not the production expert. But all the surrounding processes around the production, I think there's a lot of space of room for improvement there when it comes to energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. But your colleague is right. If you want to really change a process that is being approved by FTI or Swissmedic or whoever, that's really a tough thing to do. And that will be more complicated when it comes to replacing or reducing solvent, the use of solvent for these processes. But I think, as I said, surrounding the processes, surrounding our production processes, I think there's much room for improvement to reduce our energy consumption. So that's where we have to focus on, because, as your colleague said, changing really processes that have been approved by an FDI, that's really a long-term target, and that's really tough to do.
Yeah. There's actually a specific question on the what about solvent consumption reduction target? Do you have a specific target there?
We don't have yet, no. We are working on green chemistry in many processes, but I can really jump back to the question your colleague from Geneva asked a minute ago. If you want to change these processes into reducing solvents, that's something that takes a while, but we are working hard on that too.
Yeah. Question on the target 4, diversity. Mm-hmm. In my experience, this is always very emotional, and it's all and I think it's a lot of people mistake diversity for male female or female male, but as you pointed out, it's much more than that. Mm-hmm. Still. Do you find that your diversity target is ambitious enough?
We do so, yes, because if you look at the labor market for say science-based professionals, the labor market it's very, put it bluntly, it's very male. So to have this target, to achieve this target, to have 10% more women in workforce in a company science-driven like Bachem is, that's really already quite an ambitious target, I would say. In my former life, I was very much engaged in fostering the education of young women, or getting young women into studying science-based, to take up science-based studies, for example. And that's really, really tough. It's around the age of 12 where they lose contact to these topics, and keep them going and keep them into keeping the idea of studying chemistry, studying physics, studying mathematics. That's also a long-term target. So yes, I would say it's ambitious, because at the end you still want to have the best employees, be it male or female. So I would say it's ambitious enough. It's 5 years, 10%. That's ambitious. Yeah.
Right. And I guess this also it's not just the workforce. This also includes executive management and board of directors.
Yeah.
Well, if you have less than 10, it's going to be difficult to increase.
No, sorry, it's not. Sorry, Sam. It's not the board of directors. It's actually we defined it as. Sorry, I have to check my notes not to say something. It's upper management and regional executive committees.
Right. Okay.
The chief executive committees and the board of directors, because there's so few. We didn't take.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. And now that you have the targets, I guess it's all about execution. Is it, or is it? Do you see new big themes on the horizon that you need to address in a year or two down the road?
I wouldn't say so, Simon. I wouldn't say so. Actually, we took some time. We really it was a deep dive going into these 20 topics and where do we want to have the large impact for the next 5 to 10 years. And these 4 topics, I mentioned energy, greenhouse gas, diversity, and safety and health. I think these are the main topics, and they will be staying top of the pile in our focus for the next years. I don't think there will be many as important ones coming up.
Yeah. And I guess it's all about executing, and we have a lot of regulation, obviously, that one needs to consider. Further question on the management incentives from the chat. Any management incentive plan linked to ESG targets, and in what proportion to their remuneration?
I cannot say anything about the proportion because that's work in progress, but yes, it will be in the management targets as well. So CSR sustainability goals will land on every employee's or management annual goals.
Right.
is defined, yeah. But I can't tell you what ratio.
Yeah. And just a more broad question, I guess. In your experience, how much has ESG or corporate social responsibility increased in importance? Is this with investors? Is this with clients? Who's the main driver there, and what's the experience over the past 1 or 2 years?
Well, I personally have a long history when it comes to sustainability because my origin is from energy research, so I have quite a bit of track record in that topic, and it has been increasing ever since I'm with this topic, and that's over 30 years. Yeah. In the main driver, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. Of course, the first driver a company sees is the customer. But then you see the legislation, then you see the employees. They say, hey, listen, I had people telling me they had recruitments and the young, well-employed professionals said, if you don't have a decent CSR management system, I'm not going to work for you. So yeah. Actually the pressure is coming from all sides. It's coming from all sides. I wouldn't say one is the primary one.
Right. Okay. Just looking if there are any further questions on the chat or the Q&A that oh, there's let me just yeah, it's about the reporting. Will you update the market or the public, the market on a regular basis? Are there going to be more details on the annual report?
Yep.
What's the plan there?
Actually, we have been working strongly on the annual report. People reading our annual report will have recognized that it has grown last year. Last annual report when it comes to sustainability, we will still be reporting on these platforms. We will have a reassessment with EcoVadis this autumn, so everybody that's on that platform can see how we increase our sustainability performance, or how we increased our sustainability performance since last year. There's many other platforms, one could say too many, but I closed that bracket right now. There's many platforms where we show what we do, because yes, we're at the beginning of a way. We have some track record, but we are really also happy and proud to show what we are doing as Bachem, because I think we're on a good way.
Follow-up question on the on your efforts. Do you have an estimate on the costs that are linked to your energy consumption and greenhouse reduction targets?
I don't think, Sam, that I'm in the position of talking about cost here. Everybody from the business knows that there's no such thing as a free lunch, and there's no energy reduction without investments into CAPEX, into processes, into new sources. If you buy renewable electricity instead of coal-fired electricity, it's more expensive. If you buy certificates, it's going to cost money. I can't tell you how much that will be, but of course, it costs money.
Right. How important do you feel is the commitment from top management to the topic of sustainability?
It is there, really, it is there. I'm not only saying this because I'm sitting here in this webinar and trying to make a commercial for Bachem. It's really there in the Corporate Executive Committee, and it's also there in the Board of Directors. They really want us to have progress in sustainability because they see the advantage of it, long-term advantage of it, even though it's costly. At the moment, really, the commitment is here. You have seen that one of the key targets, key topics of Bachem is sustainability, right in the middle there of these 5 topics. So yes, the commitment is there, definitely.
Yeah. I need to read the question here to make sure I know. Will you talk about managing hazardous waste and the production? In my view, it's not my view, it's the view of the person who asked the question. This is one of the environmental hot topics. So what about, well, hazardous waste?
We do talk about hazardous waste. I think it's in the annual report, but I must say, if we did this material analysis, I was talking about waste is one of those 20 topics. But for a company like Bachem, I would say it's not the hottest topic.
Right.
Topic, but we deal with that, of course, as a chemical company, we do.
Right. Okay.
But it's a lot is standard operations because
at top of your list right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If I look at the chat and the Q&A, there seem to be no further questions. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to listen to this again or listen to the first webinar, it's on the website of Bachem, and you see here you can also send an email, and I'm sure you're going to get an answer. So with that, thank you very much, Franz. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening, and looking forward to the third webinar.